Welcome, Ghosties, to episode 94 of the Ghost Lights podcast. Today's guest was Emily K. Harrison. We sat down, we spoke about her new show that is closing this weekend, Dance Nation, through Square Product Theater. We talked about her theater company, her teaching at the collegiate level, and what inspired her and drove her along that path. I hope you'll like and subscribe, tell your friends, get tickets now, squareproducttheater.org. Now, Dan, give us War by the Hypnotic Brass Ensemble. Emily K. Harrison.
Yo.
Welcome.
Thank you.
To the Ghost Lights podcast.
Hey, thanks, man.
Yeah. I think this is episode 94 now.
Yeah.
We're cooking with gas.
Yeah.
You've got a show that's closing this week. Tell me, what's the title of this show?
I've got a show that's closing this week called Dance Nation. It's a play by Claire Barron.
Mm-hmm. What's it about?
Oh, it's about a lot of things. It's got so many layers. It's on its face, it's a play about a group of preteen girls and one boy who are on a competitive dance team, and they have their eye on nationals. And it's about they range in age from like 11 to 13, but they're all played by adults, ranging in age from our youngest actor just turned 20 the other day, and our oldest actor is in her 70s. So it's like this intergenerational cast playing these 11, 12, 13-year-old kids. And, you know, those are, that's an age where like so much is going on in life. And it's, you know, really very much about, what it means to be socialized as a girl in a way, and what it means to have this ambition to want to win, to want to be the best. And also to try to navigate what it means when your best friends also want to be the best. Like, how do you maintain those friendships and those relationships? How do you see yourself through, especially in a culture like ours that's very individualistic, and yet nobody really does anything on their own. It's a comedy, mostly.
Nice.
It's very funny.
Is it a dark comedy?
It is. I mean, it's completely out of control, honestly. Yeah. It's been described as feral. It's been described as wild. I mean, it's a great play in that it's not linear in a certain way. And so you see these sort of flash forwards to their future selves. And you also see just this just wildness on stage in certain moments in the play. And that's been really fun. There's a lot of dancing. And also part of the conceit is that none of us are dancers. So we're on a competitive dance team, but none of us, and I can verify for you that none of us are dancers, especially me. Me and Edith Weiss are in the back like, oh my God, what are we supposed to be doing right now? And so like
box step, the hell?
Oh my God. And it's, the choreography is wild too, because Laura Ann Samuelson choreographed it, and LA was raised in the competitive dance world, but now makes contemporary experimental dance. And so to go back to that for them has been really interesting, and they've really pushed us. I've toned up a little, like rolling around on the floor a lot. So yeah.
You have to be in shape for that, dude.
Yeah, man, it's rough. I'm kind of a wuss. Like, I bruise easy.
You and me both.
I bleed a lot. And I'm like, and just like my whole spine is just one giant bruise right now. But you know, it's fun. It's really fun.
Nice. I'm one of those people. I'm like, you want me to, like, when I was doing Refuge, like there were things that they were asking me to do, and I'm like, oh man, I always greet those types of tasks with like the fearful frustration. Like, I'm not angry at you for asking me to do this.
I know it's
I
my
knew
job.
it was coming,
Yep.
but I'm terrified of looking terrible.
Yeah.
So I'm going to look like I don't want to do it.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Meh. I want to be on my couch.
Yeah, I could be watching, you know,
we could
what
be
are
watching
people
the Mets.
watching right now?
Yeah, I don't know. They're watching The Bear.
TV.
Yeah.
I'm watching Hacks right now.
Ooh.
On HBO. Have you watched it?
I've not watched Hacks.
It's so fucking good.
Who's in that?
So Jean Smart is in it, and she's incredible. It's a show about a stand-up comedian Gene Smart plays the stand-up comedian.
Yeah.
And then this younger woman who is hired to work with her, and they don't really want to work together, but also they kind of love each other.
Mm-hmm.
It's really, really funny and also very moving.
Nice.
And it's in its second season right now, so that's what I'm watching. I'm also super far behind on Stranger Things. I'm watching the new season of that as well.
Yeah. No spoilers given here. I started watching The Bear because everyone's talking about The Bear.
Yeah.
And I'm 3 episodes completed right now.
Yeah.
And it's what I'm picking up on it is like tight quarters, interpersonal relationships.
Yeah.
And then you throw on the high tension of you are one of the most popular luncheon spots, dinner spots in town.
Yeah.
You're a tourist attraction, and it's like always busy. Like there's a lot of stress there. When I worked in the Denver Zoo, my first job at the age of 16 was packing hot dogs into buns at the Polar dining area, the Polar Bear dining area.
Yeah.
And half of my staff would go chase the dragon over the weekend and come in on Monday, and it's just like it's me getting yelled at. We need more hot dogs out here. I'm trying my best.
You're like, I'm 16.
Yeah. I don't know what chasing the dragon should mean. And then I got older.
Yep. Yep.
So this show, who's directing again?
So Gleason Bauer directed it.
Mm-hmm.
Gleason is one of our core company members. So it's produced by Square Product Theater, which is we're based in Boulder. It's the company that I founded in 2006.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, 2006. And Gleason is one of our core company members, and they're based in LA.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the 3rd or 4th show they've directed for us. I love working with them.
Nice.
Yeah, they've done a great job with the show. They also worked on scenic design and costume design as well. So it's also like very bright. The show's very brightly, kid color pop kind of thing. And it's a lot of pink.
Hey.
But it looks good under those lights. Jess Buttery designed the lights, and Jess is just a genius. Like her lights always they make everybody look so good, which is hard to do.
Oh, yeah.
She makes everybody look good. It's kind of incredible.
Yeah, that is definitely an amazing skill. You can tell stories with lights the way you light up a set.
Oh, yeah.
But then you allow the actors to show so much more if you make sure there's not a single dead spot on the stage at any time.
Yep.
Shout out to Jess, who just left beautiful Colorado.
Yeah,
today.
she left today.
I saw that post. Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Was she off
She and
to
I are
bigger
going to
better
the same place, actually.
Oh.
Yeah. So I'm moving to New York. I got a job as an assistant professor of theater at Hamilton College in upstate New York.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a long 6 years of applying for jobs and getting rejected a lot, which, as an actor, you're kind of used to, but it is hard too. I mean, it's hard to go through all of that. And I've been teaching all over the country just
building
the last
resume.
3-4 years as visiting professor, and in great places. It's been great, actually. I think the trajectory makes sense. Like it kind of all, the universe settles things the way it should. And yeah, the production manager / assistant professor of instruction there, who I was really excited to work with because he's incredible, is leaving.
Huh.
Yes, because his also incredible partner, who's an amazing scenic designer, got a job in Seattle. And so they're leaving for Seattle. And the chair, after I was hired, sent me a link and was like, if you know anyone that's appropriate for this job, we need someone that can design and teach design courses and manage the production calendar, send us to them. And I sent it to Jess, and they hired her.
Fantastic.
I know. We screamed like 12-year-olds when she texted us that she got the job, because we just work so well together. We've worked together for so long in so many different places, and
Is she one of the co-founders with you in Square Product?
She is not a co-founder, but she started working with us pretty early. I think the first show she worked on was 2010. She was actually my student at CU Boulder. Yeah, she was in my acting class her very last semester. She pushed it off until she absolutely had to take it to graduate. And she designed my show that semester, too. I was directing a show in the season. And she was great. I mean, she just gets the shit done. Like, she gets in there and she gets it done. And she's smart and she works fast and she works smart. And And yeah, when I was teaching at Whitman, I got them to hire her to come out and light the show I was directing there. I was teaching at Sewanee this past year, University of the South. They hired her to come design my show there. Like I just love working with her.
Nice.
And so I'm very excited that she got that job, and we're going to keep working together. And it's a small department, but it's a great department. Like, the other faculty seem amazing. The students seem amazing. So yeah, it's and we'll be back in the summers doing shows.
Oh, great.
It's kind of the plan.
That was going to be my follow-up. Is like,
Yeah.
is that the end of Square Product, or is
No.
that's great.
No, I mean, it's just a different, I mean, it's funny because we apply for grants where they're like, we need to know what you plan, like, what's your legacy for the, what's the legacy of the company? I'm like, I don't work that way. Like, I don't, when I decide not to do it anymore, we'll just close. Like, it's not, nobody's going to cry about that. Like, it doesn't, I don't feel like I have to like pass it on to someone else. Like, people can do their own thing. Like, I don't, I started the company because I got to Boulder and I didn't see the work happening that I wanted to be working on. So I started a company so I could, produce the shows that I'm interested in.
What were those shows?
Oh, man. One of the first shows we did was House of Yes, which is a Wendy McLeod play. A lot of original work, a lot of original devised work. There just wasn't, when I moved to Boulder in 2005, there was nobody really doing that. There was, great theater happening in Boulder, but it was all pretty traditional. I founded Square Product the same year that Betsy was founded. So we kind of, and I think they were kind of similarly looking around thinking like, we want to do more contemporary stuff, and there's not really much happening in that realm here. So yeah, the plan is to be back in the summers doing shows. I may come back. We may do a holiday show.
Fantastic.
Yeah, like a Ham for the holidays. I have a character called Ham Jones that feels like she might want to do a holiday show.
I love it.
Yeah.
Ham for the holidays.
Ham for the holidays, y'all. Yeah.
It was not prepared.
That's what this is her voice. Cats are like a heating pad for the wounded soul. Ham Jones. She has sayings and she says them. Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love it. The sayings with her name thrown in at the end. It reminds me of a Mike Birbiglia joke. Where he's talking about how rappers, they'll drop a line down, and at the end of they'll just say their name. Like, dun 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 dun. Mike Jones.
Yeah.
And now it's like,
Ham
Jones.
Yeah. They're good sayings. She doesn't want somebody to steal them,
No, definitely. You got to get those trademarked.
Yeah.
Ham's an entrepreneur. She's smart.
Yeah, she is. She is smart. We did a whole show with her that people lost their minds over. So, and every time I send out a survey that's like, what would you like to see us do? At least one or two people write another Ham Jones show. I'm like, okay. So I might do a Ham for the holidays show. I think that could be fun.
That would be great.
Or a Hambition tour.
Oh.
Easter ham is a good one too. Like, there's just so much you can do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Ham goes with everything.
Ham does go with everything. It's salty.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I think it's great.
Yeah.
You can get a little honey crisp ham.
Yeah.
Yeah. You cook it right. It's got that nice little crust on the outside.
Mm-hmm. And she's definitely got a little crust. So
well, hey, you don't
little
need
glaze.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I can tell. You get a nice little southern ham there. There's going to be a glaze to it. It's going to be a little sweet and savory.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. It's going to make you think, and it's going to fill you up.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's going to make you laugh.
Exactly.
Ham is so funny.
Has me rolling. So you've been teaching, you've been applying, and you've been teaching, looking for this specific gig. What draws you to that?
Yeah, that's a funny question that I've answered about 1 million times over the last 6 years.
Uh-oh.
Because
I've not done my research.
For interviews. No, just for interviews.
Yeah.
It would not be anything you would be privy to, but they always ask you, like, why do you want to teach?
Mm-hmm.
I really avoided it for a long time because my parents both taught at colleges, and I was like, ugh, I don't know my parents. But actually, turns out my parents are decent people, who loved their jobs.
That's good.
My father has passed away, but my mother's retired, and they loved their jobs. And when I was in the PhD program at CU, I taught there, and I taught a lot of different kinds of classes, and I really liked it. I sort of discovered, like, I really love doing this, and I feel like I learned so much from my students. Like, I'm 43 years old, and I think this is going to make me sound a little sad. I'm a little hipper than most 43-year-olds, in part because like I engage with my students. I listen to what they're dealing with.
Yeah.
And I'm interested in, you know, what they see as progressive and what they see as necessary.
Yeah.
As far as change is concerned in our
Absolutely.
culture. And they're smart, you know, everywhere I've taught, I've taught a lot of places, Naropa, CU Boulder, Brunel University in London, Whitman College, Sewanee. Like in every single one of those places, I've engaged with students who are just super, super freaking smart, and they make me a smarter, better person. And so, you know, for me, it was just kind of like, for a long time, I was like watching people try to get tenure, especially women. I was like, fuck that. I am not doing that. That looks awful, because they really put you through the ringer. And it seems like it's harder for women and BIPOC faculty, you know, really get put through the ringer in a way.
Unfair expectations.
Yeah, it's just kind of like, I don't know.
Excessive workload stuff as well.
Yeah. And the emotional labor I think that women end up doing in those positions is a lot more intense with students. But I also, so for a long time I was like, oh, I like teaching, so I'm going to keep adjuncting and working a part-time admin job and running a whole ass theater company and doing shows, which is a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot to be doing. And so I would teach anywhere between 2 and 4 classes a semester as an adjunct. And it, like, I don't know, I'm kind of stupid. I didn't realize that, like, that's a full-time load most places. So I was like, oh, like, when I finally realized that, I was like, oh, shit. Like, I could be teaching that much and making, like, a living wage and have full benefit, like, have retirement benefits and health benefits.
You use this word I've never heard before, benefits.
Yeah, it's bonkers.
Yeah.
It's a thing that happens when you have a full-time job.
Oh, wow.
Certain places.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
did that like get you like into the front of the line at a cafe or something?
No, it gets you in a waiting room at urgent care if you've broken a bone.
Oh man, that sounds really good.
Yeah, it's
Nice.
awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, and you know, luckily, like, I taught at CU Boulder for a really long time.
How long?
Oh man, 13 or 14 years.
Yeah.
As an adjunct.
That's a grind.
First as a graduate instructor. You know, but you're the instructor of record. It's the same as being faculty. And then as a lecturer. But CU is actually great in a way, because if you have 2 classes, they give you full health coverage, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
A lot of places can't do that, or
That's
don't
amazing,
do that,
yeah.
or won't do that. Yeah, so I was pretty lucky for a long time to be able to teach there, and be able to get enough courses in my load to have that good health insurance.
Definitely.
Health insurance. Yay.
Yay. Yeah.
It's funny because when I was teaching in London, my students like really did not understand that. They didn't get, I mean, because at that time, my father-in-law had brain cancer and was dying, and it was really awful, and he had to have brain surgery. And
Oh man.
I was telling my students about it, and they were like, and I was like, it's a good thing he has really good insurance, and it's a really good thing he has such good insurance. And they were like, well, what would happen if he didn't have that insurance? And I was like, he would die, like a lot faster, a lot sooner. And they were like, what? I mean, it's like unfathomable to them that he wouldn't be taken care of.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're pretty messed up over here.
I mean, that was kind of the derail, the motivation behind the derail joke there. Yeah, it's the second you say benefits, I'm like, I remember what those were like.
Yeah.
It was the thing I chose not to use because I'm a tough guy. I don't need it.
Yeah.
And now I'm like,
You're like, who needs a tibia?
yeah. And then I was driving over to the Henrys yesterday, and I swear to God, they were out to get me. Every single stoplight, somebody ran. Somebody was like swerving into my lane without using their blinker. I'm like, see, this is the shit, Sam.
Well, that's also because drivers here are trash.
Oh yeah, we're not very good. No. The fast lane is for you driving right up next to a back truck and then not passing it.
Oh my God. Yeah, and then there's always like some person in a Dodge Ram, like right behind, like so close to you that it's
With-
always a Dodge Ram.
And two gigantic flags
You're like, why?
billowing out the back.
Why are you so close to me? I'm going as fast as I can.
Oh man, tailgating. I overreacted on the drive in today. Someone was tailgating me.
I hate it.
Yeah. I just if I cannot see your headlights, I'm like, why?
Yeah,
What are we
it's so,
doing?
Yeah, it's just dangerous, and
Yeah.
also leave earlier. Like if you're in that much of a hurry,
Yes.
just leave earlier.
Yeah. It's clear that you don't care about your life. Why do you care about
Yeah.
your job? Or
Yeah, right.
you know
Wherever
the
it
thing-
is you're going, that's so important.
Yeah, we just need to like dial it down a notch. Anyway, back on track here. The teaching that you do, is it specific to what draws you to being a performance artist, or
I
is
think
this something
so.
that you cultivated and you started like picking up? I'm like, oh, I can teach that.
It's a little bit of both, I think. I mean, I started at CU teaching acting. That's what I taught like a lot when I first started there, because I have an MFA in acting, and so they were kind of like, we trust you to teach this.
Nice.
And then I was lucky there. They let me teach a lot of different kinds of classes there, which was pretty awesome. And in my new gig, I'm going to be teaching acting, but I'll mostly be teaching like what I've taught a lot is sort of the intro to acting. Like, this is how you do realism, right? Which is what we do in this country, to our detriment, I think.
Ooh.
And what I'll be teaching at Hamilton is actually not that. I'll be teaching the sort of modern European experimental avant-garde performance styles course, which I taught in London. So that's like, you know, Brecht and Artaud and absurdism, you know, Beckett and Genet, and it's not realism. There are definitely tenets of like that training that are useful in any context, but so I'm excited to teach that again because I haven't taught that in a few years. And I'll be teaching devising there, which I love teaching. And the thing I love about teaching devising is just like what can grow out of a class like that. Like I taught a devising class at Sewanee last semester, and I think I'm going to turn some of that material that we generated as a group into a show that we'll probably do next summer here.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I just, you know, like I love that kind of thing. Like it's like a little laboratory. We get to be in a space together for like 3 or 4 hours a week for 15 weeks, you know, and inevitably there's material there that's like really good, like really strong material with a lot of potential. And you get to, you know, continue those relationships with some of those people too, which is cool.
Yeah. Kind of like I'm experimenting with format here, sitting and talking with you, trying to like, you're hearing this now. This is my thought process about today. I'm like, I've auditioned, I think, with you for a couple of projects.
Probably, yeah.
And so, but outside of that, not a lot of communication. So I want to like really get an opportunity to get to know you here. What I'm learning now is that you have a wide set of knowledge here in theater. How did you get here? What pulled you in?
Oh man. Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, because I didn't do theater like really as a kid or in high school or anything like that, because I grew up in Texas, and like what we had was football, which I did not play.
You didn't play football?
I did not play football, remarkably.
It looks like that, you could probably run some pretty good routes
I can
and
run
slot.
pretty fast, but you know, I don't want to get tackled.
No, neither do I.
Yeah, so like we did like school pageants and shit like that as a kid. I usually had a solo in the pageant because I was one of like 3 kids that was not tone deaf.
There you go.
Me and Gina Hedrick and Kanan Grimes were the 3 kids who were not tone deaf.
Shout out
We always had
Kendra and Gina. Shout out.
Kanan.
Sorry.
Kanan. He actually died last year.
Oh,
He
shit.
was my first boyfriend ever. Yeah, it's weird. It's weird when that kind of thing happens.
Yeah,
Anyway, moving on to not so gloomy stories.
definitely.
The thing that I think drew me in was that I grew up in a really small town, but there was a college in the town. My dad taught at that college. And the Texas Shakespeare Festival is in residence there. And I didn't go see things there when I was especially young, but once I was in like high school, I would go see some shows there and usher for them so that I could see the shows for free.
Yeah.
And so I went to that school for 2 years and was able to work with the Texas Shakespeare Festival from a really young age for 5 years, 5 seasons. Not as an actor at first. I didn't act for them until the last couple of seasons, but that's kind of what started to draw me in, was like being able to interact, because they're like CSF or OSF. They're a much smaller scale festival. They have one space, they have one stage where they do their shows, but they, bring in actors and directors and designers from all over the country and all over the world, and being able to interact with those folks was really great for me at a young age, because I was pretty sheltered comparatively, because I grew up in such a small town in the 90s. Like we didn't have the internet. There was not, I don't know how old you are, but we didn't have the internet when I was in high school. There was, my best friend got like dial-up AOL when we were like seniors, and we would go in chat rooms and stuff like that.
Oh man.
But
chat rooms.
It was like by the minute. You paid by the minute, so we weren't allowed to be on the internet for very long. So yeah, like different is a different time. A time when we did not have entertainment at our fingertips in the same way.
Yeah.
And so yeah, then from there I went to Emerson College in Boston.
Okay.
And finished my degree there. And I knew that I needed more training. I knew that I wanted to get an MFA, so I took a year and a half off and lived in Brooklyn with my friend Dave, who was a lighting designer, and auditioned for MFA programs and ended up going to school for an MFA. And yeah, and that was a program, my MFA program was a program that at the time was really focused on traditional actor training, but also had a bit of an emphasis on like theater literature and theory, and an emphasis on generating original work, which was part of why I was really interested in it. So that kind of got me started down a path of like, oh, actually, like I want to make some stuff. I don't know how to do it necessarily, and I've learned. I mean, I still have a lot of learning to do, but I've learned a lot just by doing it.
Just being thrown in.
Yeah.
Who were some of your inspirations? Who are the people that influenced you?
My friend Neil Medlin actually really influenced me. He's a performance artist in New York. He also grew up in East Texas, close to where I lived. Raymond Caldwell, who was the artistic director of the Texas Shakespeare Festival for a long time, was an influence on me. Because I really wanted to go to school in New York, and he was like, I see really good auditions coming out of this school in Boston called Emerson College. Maybe you should look into that. And I went to school there, and it was a great experience.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, and then like I keep seeing work that like, and reading work that's really moving to me. Like Susan Laurie Parks is probably my favorite playwright. I love her work so much. I just think it's so smart.
I love Top Dog Underdog.
I saw Top Dog Underdog on Broadway when I was living in New York.
Oh.
It's not my favorite of hers. My favorite is the America play, which I think is so fucking brilliant. It's such a brilliant play. I wrote part of my dissertation on it.
Ooh.
Also Top Dog Underdog.
Nice.
But yeah, I love her work. I love Young Jean Lee's work. I love Brandon Jacobs Jenkins's work. I love the Gob Squad, which is a Berlin-based devising ensemble. Half of them are from the UK and half of them are from Germany, and they're amazing. I was able to see one of their shows in London while I was there, and then they randomly, like sometimes they come to the United States, and they're usually at like BAM or Red Cat, like kind of the places you would expect them to be. But last semester when I was teaching devising at Sewanee, they had one U.S. tour date in Nashville at this venue called Oz Arts, which was awesome. And so I took my devising students to see their production of Kitchen, which is an Andy Warhol piece, and it was so great. I mean, I think their work is just really brilliant. Yeah. I love Brandon Jacobs Jenkins's work. I think I probably just said that, but I can't remember. And I especially love his works that, like, I love An Octoroon. I think that play is freaking brilliant.
Did you catch it? Were you able to?
I was able to, yeah. And I also saw it in London when I was there. I teach it a lot. That script is just like bananas good. It's so good.
It was a shame. I really wanted to catch it, but it's one of those things like the want to do something and then like my ability in the day to motivate myself these days, especially for theater when I'm like, this is kind of a derail again, but like I'm working at my stuff so much that
it's
when
hard.
I get done, I'm like, okay,
Yep.
the bear, boom.
Yep. I know it is hard. I've been surveying my audience, asking them what keeps them from coming to theater. And I have like a menu selection. And one of my options is like Netflix. Like, is that what's keeping you? Because it is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so much easier to just sit at home, especially for those of us who make theater. It's hard to get motivated to go like on your one night off to go out and see something. But I Benchmark did it. And it's a play that I really wanted to do here. And I didn't apply for the rights because I was like, I would have to really seriously think about who I would hire to direct it and who would be in it. Because it's such a beautiful, brilliant play. And I'm so glad that they did it. Like, I think it's a really like brave, bold choice. And I'm glad.
Donnie at the helm.
I'm glad that like, some company in the area jumped on it and did it. Cause I feel like, it's not a safe, that's a play that is not a safe bet. And I'm glad that someone went in for it. Cause I just think it's a genius piece of writing.
Nice.
Yeah.
Earlier you talked about the tendency in American theater, realism, to kind of be our end all be all.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that can be magnified or improved upon in terms of through the course of your studies and your experiences that would make what we do here more palpable?
I think more and more companies making braver choices, riskier choices, is a big part of the answer. I think a play like Dance Nation is a great example because there are moments in that play that are very much in that realm of realism, and you have characters speaking to each other. They have arguably objectives that they can pursue, and they're interacting with each other in a very realistic way. And Gleason talks about this a lot, my director, and very good friend, of like the pitfall of American theater has been this sort of hyper-realism, which film and television can do better, right? Our strong suit is not actually just straight realism. The thing that's magical about theater is when it steps outside of that, and when it shows you something magical through technology and through design and through a writing style that's not necessarily, linear and plot driven. Like I had a student recently who basically announced that there's no such thing as good theater that doesn't have a plot. And I was like, I 100% disagree with you. I think there's a lot of great theater that does not have a plot. I don't think everything has to have a clear beginning and ending. Like so many things don't have a clear beginning and ending in life. So why should theater?
Yeah.
And the thing that's great about the Dance Nation script is that it's all, it jumps through time. It jumps all over the place. There is a plot. There is a linear narrative in some respects, but it's structurally not this thing that starts and has builds to a climax and then a denouement and then a conclusion. Yeah. It's not like that. And in fact, there are many moments in the play where you're like, it could be over here. Oh no, there's still more, which I love. And to me, like that's work that's much more interesting because you don't know where it's going. You don't have the sort of pat satisfaction of like, oh, here now this thing is happening in this thing. Oh, and now we're okay. And now it's done. Yeah, it doesn't work that way. And so I find it very satisfying in a deeper way.
When a question that just jumped to mind is when you're talking about you have a student specifically who's like no good theater without a plot.
Yeah.
Is it important for a piece of theater to have a message, a theme, something that the audience can latch onto beyond spectacle and stylization?
Yeah, I think so. Yes, theater is meant to be entertaining, and it should be entertaining. Like I'm not a huge proponent of theater that's not entertaining.
Yeah.
But for me, theater should also have some sort of larger thematic, message or something that an audience walks away with. I'm less interested in answering questions and more interested in posing them to an audience. So it's like, here are the questions that I think this grapples with, and I'm not going to tell you what the answers are. I don't know what the answers are. I don't feel like it's my job to tell you as an audience member what the answers are, because we can all come to different conclusions. But yeah, I do think I'm not super interested in theater that doesn't have some perspective.
Yeah.
Like, right, that's not, that doesn't have some sort of message, and whether that message is delivered through images, through lights, through sound. I'm a huge fan of sound and projection. I will also say the sound design in Dance Nation is bonkers good.
Nice.
Bailey Trierweiler, who's from Denver and now lives in New York, came out and designed the sound, and he just did an incredible job with the sound design for the show. And it was nice to have him back in town for a while too. Yeah, I mean, I just think there are different ways to tell a story, and the sort of golden age of American theater, which is valuable. I teach it. I love those plays.
Yeah.
I love Miller. I love Williams. I love Lorraine Hansberry. I love those plays. And we're sort of, I think, a lot of times trapped in this idea of like, that's what a play looks like. It tells a story in a recognizable way. It makes people feel safe and comfortable.
Yeah. Well, that's why when we came out of as restrictions got fully lifted and more theater started happening and theater companies were reopening their doors, they went to comfort food pieces.
Yeah.
I mean, and
not me. Not Benchmark either. Like Benchmark's like, we're doing an octoroon.
That's right. The Catamounts, no, it's the same
Yeah.
thing. But yeah, I feel like there is this tendency to like offer something they know.
Yeah.
So that we can at the very least guarantee a positive turnaround here.
Yeah, and you know what's funny? That's called playing it safe, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's fine. If that's what people want to do, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Our first big show since the pandemic is Dance Nation. We did a show in the spring that was a collaboration that was really, I didn't see it, but I heard was really great. But this is our first big, we're producing this show since 2019, actually. This is our first show since 2019, because we did Everything Was Stolen in 2019.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then we were supposed to do Dance Nation in 2019. We were supposed to do this play in 2019, and my dad died, and Gleason's dad died, and Laura Ann's dad died. Like, all of our dads died right in a row, and mine was the last to die. And all of us were just kind of like, how about if we just don't do this?
Mm-hmm.
We'll do it in 2020, summer of 2020. Right? So that didn't happen. We still didn't feel comfortable doing it last summer because it is a show that has some pretty hefty design elements and needs to be done indoors.
Yeah.
You can really see it.
Mm-hmm.
And the playwright and her agents were very gracious in letting us hold on to the rights and do it when we felt we could really do the script justice. But it's not a safe choice because it's not a show that most people have heard of because it's a new play.
Yeah.
And it is not. It is totally feral and wild. Like, it is not a normal play. I'm using quotation marks with my fingers for our audio audience, which is
that's a
thanks
great
for all these
podcasting
visuals.
tool. Yeah.
And to me, I was nervous. I was okay. Our ticket sales are never great because we're always doing new work and a lot of world premieres because we're devising work as an ensemble. We're making work. And it's hard to get audiences to come see something that they've never heard of before. And so I was like, okay, our ticket sales are going to be awful. Wrong. They've been great.
Nice.
I think audiences want it. I think audiences want something different. I think it's fine to play it safe and do these plays and musicals that people are familiar with. But honestly, now actually is maybe a time to be taking more risks because now I feel like people have been trapped inside their homes with their families, which is a whole thing.
Yeah.
And
that's why Tom Brady is out of retirement. He
right?
couldn't be at home with his wife and kids.
It's hard. I'm a Taurus. I just want to be at home all the time.
Yeah.
By myself.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Which
I'm
hardly
a Virgo
ever happens.
And I want that.
And so, I think people are actually maybe a little more willing to go out and see some wild shit.
I love that take. I was having a conversation recently with Amanda Berg Wilson.
Yeah.
And one of my feelings about the future of theater is I feel like the theater that is built to last is the stuff that challenges the audience, stretches what is accepted in terms of like where we put it on,
Yeah.
how, and like great to do like even this show that we're doing on the set. We're recording this podcast on the set of a kids show that is putting the audience on the stage. That's like a small tweak, but that's really unique. And for a kid learning that, like how,
yeah, that's huge.
Theater, I have, like, if they're on all sides of me, I kind of get to just do the thing.
Yeah, and also they're right there.
Yeah, and
which
you
is
can't lie.
Better.
Yeah. Oh, it's like film and TV where the camera won't let you hide.
Yeah.
If you're a foot away from another audience member as you're telling them the story, they know when you're not in it.
Yep.
And I feel like that is the stuff that will get people to turn off Netflix for a couple hours.
Yeah, and you can go back to it. There's some great stuff on Netflix.
Absolutely.
HBO Max is killing it right now.
Mm-hmm, they got great stuff. I mean, if you watch John Bernthal and We Own This City, God dang, that boy can act. I love John Bernthal. And he started a whole podcast because of his work on that show.
Yeah.
Like getting groups of people that normally don't talk to each other, like cops and the people they arrested together to talk about stuff. It's really unique. The podcast is Real Ones. Look it up. But after you listen to this podcast.
Yeah.
Anyway.
After you listen to all 94 episodes.
That's right, 94. We got 94. We got 6 more coming. And big news coming. But we'll talk about that later.
Dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. I'm gonna do what has now become something I really despise. Is when somebody's got a mic in front of them and like, I've got something to tell y'all,
but I'm not going to do it.
But you're going to have to wait
for like 6 more weeks.
Exactly. It's like what Regis Philbin would do. Not Regis is probably not to blame for this, but on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
Yeah.
Like a guy would answer the question, what is the wreck of the Hespers? And then the lights would do this, and then the music would go out, and then the producers would make us wait 30 seconds when I'm sure Regis was like, the answer's incorrect. Like, no, there goes all my money. Anyway. See, this is what happens. I derail myself all the time.
I forgot about that show.
I think a lot of people did.
Yeah.
It's probably for the best.
Yeah. It was, I don't know, it was pretty interesting when it first came out, though.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember the best I did.
It was design heavy.
It was design heavy.
A lot of lights in that show.
Oh, man.
All of those lights are now in my basement.
Oh, you got all of them from?
Not really, but I have like so many freaking techno beams in my basement right now.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
You should be putting on shows.
It's like those lights that go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bring them out. Put them in the living room.
Yeah. Oh, God, they take so much electricity. I also, half of the outlets in my house just stopped working a week ago, so.
What is wrong with your house?
Dude, I don't know. It's like the worst timing.
No.
I've had 3 electricians over so far, and everyone's like,
Oh, no.
They all think that there's a sub panel somewhere. There's this, like the last one came and took my breaker box apart, and he was like, there's a 120 volt breaker here that is not powering anything that is on right now, and it has to be connected to a sub panel somewhere.
Wow.
There is not a sub panel. I don't know where it would be. It's really frustrating.
That is annoying.
Yeah.
I couldn't. I'm not nearly smart enough to try and. I always have this tendency to be like, well, maybe I have the answer. I know nothing about electricity. What I will say is this: I've got one electrical outlet above my sink in my shitty basement apartment, and I love my shitty basement apartment, but it is shitty. No one likes to pee at my house. No one likes to use the restroom at my house. It's terrible. It's terrible. Anyway,
because are they like, oh God, we're underground right now?
No, it's you have to like climb 6 flights of stairs to get to my toilet.
What do you do at night? I would not make it.
Oh man,
I would be dead.
It's a really good thing that I'm single and I just have a whole bunch of dog chuck pads, those little underpads.
Yeah.
Just kind of go where I am. That's what Mike did last night after the Henrys. Thanks,
I
dog.
should have donated mine to you.
Oh man, well we'll get them.
Yeah, my cat passed away and I had all these little pads that I had to give away.
Oh yeah.
Mike, he was almost 20. It was a good long run.
Oh man,
I cried a lot over him. Even just today, I had a good sob over him. I miss that guy.
They're family. They're family. Dan, aren't cats family? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yoshimi Jerome Harrison, rest in peace.
Oh, Big ups.
Yeah.
Sashimi.
He was a handsome, handsome little boy.
Mm-hmm. Send it down to you.
My cat got out last weekend.
Oh my God, I would have all the heart attacks.
It took me about 24 hours to find him, and
oh my God, I would be dead.
found him at night, and he ran up a tree. So
Yes, he did.
Were you like, fuck you?
yeah,
Oh,
I stayed
yeah.
up all night checking in on him so he wouldn't go anywhere because I didn't want
Yeah.
to lose sight.
Yeah.
Turns out he had gone too high up and was stuck. So
Yeah.
I had to come to the theater, get an extension ladder, climb up about
Yeah.
30 feet, grab him, bring him back down.
Yeah, Yoshimi
Little jerk.
was an indoor cat for that very reason. He was not allowed to go outdoors.
Yeah.
I mean, in his old age, sometimes we would take like really slow strolls in the front yard because he couldn't really move very fast. But
Yeah. Mike is slowly but surely getting to that stage where he's got to have this specific diet or it's just going to be bad news bears.
Yep.
I can't deviate at all.
Yep.
Can't no more treats for him.
yep,
He just sits on the other end of the couch and is just sad, just mean mugging me the whole time because he wants it. And I'm like,
Yeah.
you know what this does to you.
it's not good for your kidneys. It's not
Nope.
good for your digestion.
You cannot have this salad with ranch dressing. I'm sorry.
Yep.
Yeah.
I did. My vet did give me permission to give Yoshimi goat cheese.
Oh.
And so, because he was on a special diet for a long time, and he really loved goat cheese. And so, basically, every single night when I was cooking dinner, he was in the kitchen, like very patiently waiting for me to give him goat cheese. Even at like almost 20 years old, just like couldn't see, couldn't hear, and he's like, "I know you're fucking in here making some shit, and you better fucking give me some
I
goat
can
cheese."
feel the vibrations. I know where I am.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, they're smarter than us.
Oh my God, he was so smart.
Yeah, I love the pets. Big ups to pets.
Yeah, they keep us from killing people, honestly.
Seriously. Oh man,
There are so many people that I would be in prison probably if it weren't for that cat.
Man. Mike has saved plenty of people.
Yeah.
Just come home and just pet that guy. He's like,
Yeah.
all right, it's all right. He's got all those jowls. Just move his face around.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Little
this is
squishers.
this is a fun little tangent. Where was I? We were talking about theater and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, just how much more interesting it can be.
Yeah.
And maybe this is the time for it, honestly. Like, I was really like, okay, Dance Nation is not a title people know.
Mm-hmm.
At least not here. I mean, it was a finalist for the Pulitzer, so you would think people would know it.
Interesting.
And
Yeah.
what's funny too is that I'm like getting, sending out surveys to audience members like, share your thoughts about the play. And I'm getting some feedback that's like, I have some comments for the playwright. The play should be a little shorter. I'm like, she's not interested in your commentary. And also, like, it was finalist for the Pulitzer. This is, I mean, it's such a good script.
Yeah, well, it's like a Twitter message board. Sometimes
Yeah,
when you get
it's
those
just
out.
like, well, that's what I get for asking.
Mm-hmm.
But it's, I was nervous about it. I was like, this is, and like, to date, our highest grossing show is a show called Five Lesbians Eating a Quiche, which we did the second only production of in the United States. Because it was developed by some people that I knew in Chicago, and they sent it to me, and I was like, oh yeah, we're doing this show.
Yeah.
And
I
that
saw that show.
we did it twice, once in Boulder and then once in Denver, and that show sold like crazy. But that's because it has a great title, right? Like, you see a title, Five Lesbians Eating a Quiche, you're buying a ticket for that.
Yeah. Little known fact, they don't actually eat quiche.
Nope.
No.
I don't know that I could
Spoilers.
ever eat a quiche again after that show.
Yeah. No, I've never been a fan of the cheese pie.
Yeah, the quiche is like not my favorite meal anyway, and
Yeah.
there is like, I mean, poor Jess Robley in our production had to really eat like basically a whole quiche in like 30 seconds. So,
Oh man.
yeah, I can't even look at one anymore. But
Well, that's a shame because right now, it's our bacon quiche, everybody. For those of you listening at home,
yeah,
it's fresh out of the oven.
smells good.
Mhm.
Yeah, but I kind of was like, oh, this show's not going to sell because people have never heard of it, and it doesn't have lesbians in the title. Which, like, what are you thinking, Claire
Is it
Barron?
too late to change it?
Right, Dance Nation with lesbians.
There you go.
I mean,
Lesbian dance.
not
nation.
untrue.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's sold a lot better than I thought it would, which is great.
Mhm.
And people have been loving it. Like our audiences have been so generous, and I think they want something different. They want something that's not what they're used to.
Yeah.
So that's been great.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I'm glad to hear that you're getting, people coming to see the show,
Oh,
and
yeah.
that it's you've got shows going on this weekend. Your closing weekend Thursday's already
Yeah.
sold out. That's really awesome and inspiring.
Thank you, yeah.
We were doing Crucible at Miners Alley, and just like being in that show and not being able to do bows to all three sides is it's kind of one of those things you're like, oh man.
Yeah.
And then if it happens more than once in a weekend, you're like, oh
Yeah.
come on.
And we were talking about the Henrys before we started, really. And
Yeah.
Jay just won a Henry.
Yes, it did. Congratulations.
Yeah,
Jay.
and I missed that show because I wasn't here, but I love him. He's been in 2 of our shows.
Yeah.
I love working with him.
He put his thing down in that show.
Yeah, I wish I'd been able to see it. I don't know that I've ever actually seen that show. But he did Everything Was Stolen with us a few years ago, and I made him lip sync to a Lana Del Rey song, and he killed it.
Yeah.
Every night. It was.
What was the Lana Del Rey song?
American. It was great. He just fucking laid it down. It was.
I bet he did.
Wendy Franz actually said to me, like, that show was worth seeing just for that. Like, it was just like you just kind of don't see it coming.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I wouldn't. I've had the good fortune to really get to know that guy, and
Yeah.
I'm like, I would not peg you as a guy that could throw down some lip sync into Lana Del Rey.
And he did. He really went for it. I think he's come a long way. Like, he's just like really put himself out there, like physically as an actor. Like, he just goes for it.
He's 100% commitment guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he puts a lot of himself into it. Puts a lot of his heart and
Yeah, and
soul on the line every time he does a show. Yeah,
he's a nice guy.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. This has been a great conversation. I do kind of want to like do some like little logistical housekeeping things. Where is Dance Nation happening?
Yeah, so Dance Nation is being produced by Square Product Theater, and like all theaters in Boulder, except for the Shakespeare Festival and the Dinner Theater, we're just wherever we find space. So for this production, we are in the Atlas Black Box, which is on the CU Boulder campus. It's an amazing space. This is our, I want to say, 5th show in that space.
Nice.
It is, I think, it's definitely the best theater space as far as tech goes in Colorado, and I think also in the neighboring states. It's an amazing space. Like, what you can do with technology in there is pretty awesome, which is why the sound design and the light design for the show are so great. I mean, in addition to the fact that the designers know what they're doing and do a good job. But they really, both of them just like really utilized what they had. Yeah, so the Atlas Black Box at CU Boulder, it's not easy to find. So I recommend buying tickets in advance, because then you get an email from me with explicit instructions on how to find the theater.
Nice.
Yeah. It's not that far from like where CSF does their plays.
Oh,
it's really close to the Norland Library.
Okay.
It's not, once you know where it is, you're like, oh yeah.
Yeah. Just gotta do
Duh.
some digging.
Yeah.
That's right. And pay
Yeah.
attention to the email.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, and Thursday is sold out, but we do have tickets for Friday and Saturday night.
Fantastic.
It's 7:30 both nights.
Great.
It's a great cast. We've had so much fun working together.
Nice.
Yeah.
Before we go and ask my sign-off question, something that's occurred to me that I wanted to touch on, because you were talking about you've got this awesome opportunity, and
Yes.
as well as your lighting designer is going to
Yeah.
be joining you
Yeah.
again. Is it important for you as a director, producer, to have those types of almost symbiotic? I feel like you get to they know what you're thinking, what you want, as much as you know what they can give you.
Yeah.
Is that important for you?
It is. Yeah. I mean, as an artist, yeah, I love working with people who I know how to communicate with, and I know that, like, Jess is not precious about the work.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the things I love about her. Like, we can be working on a project, and I can say something to her that for other people would make absolutely no sense, and she understands what I'm trying to say, and she can give it to me. Or she can say, I get what you're trying to say. I have a better idea, which is what happens a lot.
Nice.
Right? So yeah, I mean, I think because Square Product has worked in a more ensemble modality for so long, like we are all kind of like, none of us is super precious about what our role is. You know, like the stage manager might be like, oh, what if, like, I have an idea for like this moment as far as direction goes. Like, what if, and it's like, yeah, great, let's try it. Like, we don't sort of keep to those traditional categories that Americans love. Like, this is your job, and you shut the fuck up and you do your job, and you don't have any ideas about anyone else's job. We don't work that way.
Do you feel like what's the recipe to get that?
Oh, it's hard. Yeah. I mean, it really is about having the right people in the room. And sometimes people change too, right? So sometimes you'll have someone in the room on 1 or 2 projects and it's great, and you're, you know, like working really well together, and then that person maybe decides like, actually, I want to just be a director and not have anyone else have any ideas about that, or I just want to do sound and not really have anyone tell me like what their vision for the play is, or whatever. I don't know. But you know, we go through phases of like different people that we work with, and we have a roster of artistic associates that are people that we love working with. And some of those people are people that haven't worked on a show artistically in like 10 years. But they're on our roster of artistic associates because we love working with them. And when the opportunity presents itself and they're available, we want to work with them. And it just kind of depends on the project. We go project to project, and we're often working with people from outside of the company who come in and either really are on board with a sort of ensemble mentality, or are much more traditional in the way that they've made work before, and it's a little bit harder for them sometimes, and that's okay. Like, you know, we just kind of adapt to whoever's in the room. But it's one of the reasons I really love working with someone like Jay Millam, because he, you know, the first show he ever did with us was I wouldn't say a traditional play. It was, I mean, like it's a great play, but it's not like what you would expect. But it was more probably traditionally staged. Like there was a director who kind of just told us what. I mean, it was more conversational than a lot of sort of bigger theaters. But
was it the one with the car, right?
That one was
Carlin's driving.
No, that was How I Learned to Drive.
Oh yeah.
No, Jay was in a play that we did called She Rode Horses Like the Stock Exchange, which is a 4-person play. Amelia Roper wrote it. Okay. She's a great playwright who mostly writes for TV now, I think. Like you do, because there's so much money there.
Absolutely.
And then I hired Jay again to come in and do Everything Was Stolen, which was much like had absolutely no plot. I mean, there was definitely something that the audience took away from it. Yeah. It had a perspective for sure. Yeah. But there was not a plot, and it was all over the place as far as like actors are concerned. They didn't have like one character that they kind of like got to follow through the play. That it's just wasn't. It's more a collage style devised piece.
Nice.
And you know, he was great to work with on that too. Like he's the kind of person that can kind of come into the room and adapt to whatever the vision and situation is, and just go with it. And those are the kinds of people I like working with. That doesn't mean we don't like having people in the room who are more traditional and kind of have a way of working that is more set. Like that works really well sometimes. It just depends on the project.
Totally.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
As we sign off, I would love to hear what your ghost slide is. What's that piece of advice you wish you had before you started your endeavors in this field that you'd want to let everyone else know?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing I've learned that I wish I had known earlier was to take the risks. Take the risks. Don't worry about what other people think and what other people say you should be doing. Tap into your own intuition and your own, you know, vision of what you want theater to look like, and like expand your vision of what you think theater can be, which means seeing a lot of theater, quite frankly, and seeing a lot of theater in as many places as you can. But, you know, I think as a young person, I spent more time worrying that people would think I was doing it wrong, and that people would think I was doing it wrong.
Yeah.
And I think the more you can let go of that, and it's hard in this country because everything is predicated on like getting grants and getting funders and then reporting to those people. And sometimes those are not people who understand what it means to make art. And so I think just like, be bold and take risks, choose material that makes you uncomfortable, choose material that's going to make your audience uncomfortable. You don't have to have all the answers. Mm-hmm. I feel like a lot of actor training today is like, you have to know everything about your entire life story for this character. You have to know all the answers. And it's like, as a human being, I don't know all the answers for my own life. Like, that's ridiculous. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I think just, I'm a big fan of wabi sabi. Like, nothing is perfect, nothing is permanent, and nothing is complete. Just like take some risks, put it out there, see what happens. Don't worry about it being perfect. Don't worry about it being finished in a way that American culture insists things be finished and perfect. Yeah.
There's no, I mean, for as much hype as the phrase trust the process has gotten, me as a sports fan, that phrase has been thrown around like candy. It's just trust the process. Yeah. And even though people say that, there is such a gap in what the understanding of what that really means.
Yeah.
Like,
well, it's hard. Yeah. Our culture doesn't make it easy to trust the process.
No, yeah. I mean, especially in a capitalist society.
Yeah.
Yeah. We need to make money.
It's all about product. Mm-hmm. And it's one of the challenges with getting funding too, with grants, is that they're like, you have 1 year and we want to know what the end product's going to be. Yeah. And when you're making new work, it's like, what? Mm-hmm. I don't know. Mm-hmm. I have an idea.
Yeah.
And I might need more than 1 year. Yeah. For Slab, it took us 5 years. Right? So that's just people like in good faith donating the time, working on something for 5 years until we can feel like now we can do the show. So now we can apply for grants. Mm-hmm. We just don't make space for that here.
Well, I feel like in art we get certain leeways in that regard, but even then it's like people are like, when's that next album coming out, Kendrick?
Yeah, right.
Like, we can't sit there and enjoy Damn, period, for being a
masterpiece.
Work. Yeah, exactly. And so these types of things, to be at its most effective, requires the artists involved to take time with themselves.
Yeah.
Not be precious about everything, because it's when you are precious about everything, you run the risk of shunning an idea that can help propel it to that next phase that you inevitably want it to go to.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And I mean, that's part of why a few years ago, Square Product moved away from like a season model and moved towards like a project model. Like, this is the project we're working on next, and that's what we're going to focus on. And I'm not going to waste a bunch of time saying like, these are the 4 shows we're going to do in the next 12 months. Like what?
Yeah.
We don't even have a space. And it's just, it doesn't make a lot of room. There's not a lot of room to make art when you have to sort of consistently prove yourself to the people who have money that you can do the thing. And it's like, well, some of us have been doing the thing for like 2 decades now. Mm-hmm. Like, can you just trust that we have it under control and something's going to happen, and we don't know what it's going to look like yet. Mm-hmm. I mean, the show that I want to do next summer, like, I don't know what it's going to look like. It's in the nascent phases, right? And I'm already in a position where I have to like write grants to try to get funding for it and like declare what it is. And it's like, oh, I mean, come on.
It's a play about a life.
Yeah.
An aspect thereof.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Try not to get married to it.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Well, Emily, thank you so much for being on. I had a great time just talking to you and getting to learn more about how you see this.
Likewise.
I take you as a person that is very thoughtful about it. And
occasionally.
Yeah. There's an intellect at work there that's really kind of inspiring. So thank you so much for sharing that with us today.
Oh, thanks, man.
Of course.
I take that as a huge compliment.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Dan, you were acceptable today.
Yeah.
Now do the damn thing.
Bernie goes, Dan, you've been acceptable today. And everyone went, that is the nicest thing we've ever heard him say to someone the first time they've met him.
You've been acceptable today. I like that.
And everyone was
man.
like, wow, he must really like you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
High bar, high bar.
High bar indeed.